You know, every home has a secret, and this one is hiding in plain sight. We're talking about the single most exposed and, frankly, the most neglected part of your entire house. And the truth about what's really happening to it, well, it's pretty brutal. Just picture your home for a second. You see that big, solid brick chimney, right? It looks totally indestructible. It stands up to wind, rain, snow, you name it. But what if I told you that very symbol of strength was actually, secretly, just dissolving? And look, that might sound like a crazy exaggeration, but it's not. The reality is, every single time it rains, a slow-motion demolition process gets started. And it all begins with a huge misunderstanding about what brick and mortar really are. Yeah, so let's get into it. Most of us think that because brick is hard, it must be waterproof. It just makes sense, right? Well, that's a dangerous and really expensive mistake to make. The truth is something else entirely. If you remember one thing from all this, let it be this. Your chimney is not a solid shield. It's a giant vertical sponge just sitting up there on your roof, totally exposed to everything nature throws at it. See, brick is filled with thousands upon thousands of tiny microscopic pores. And the mortar that's holding all those bricks together, that's even more porous. Now, these materials are actually designed to breathe, which is a good thing, but that very same quality makes them incredibly absorbent. And when they soak up water, a really powerful force of physics takes over. It's not just the surface getting wet. Oh no. Through a process called capillary action, water is literally pulled its wicked deep into the very core of the brick. And that is where the real damage starts, happening deep inside where you can't see a thing. So once all that water is trapped deep inside the masonry, a simple drop in temperature turns it into a weapon. This is what we call the freeze-thaw death cycle. Think of it like a slow-motion jackhammer just hammering away at your home. Here's a crazy fact. When water turns to ice, it expands by 9%. Now, just try to imagine that expansion happening inside all those tiny, microscopic pores of your brick. The internal pressure is just immense. So here's how that whole destructive cycle works. First, the sponge-like brick soaks up water. Then, when the temperatures drop below freezing, all that trapped water expands. And eventually, the pressure just becomes too much, and the hard outer face of the brick literally pops right off. There's a name for this process. It's called spalling. And once that hard, protective face of the brick is gone, the soft, crumbly interior is exposed to the elements, and the decay just starts happening faster and faster. It is, no joke, a death sentence for your masonry. So how can you tell if this is happening to your house? Well, your chimney actually leaves clues. You might see this white, powdery stain called efflorescence. That's basically salt deposits left behind as water evaporates out of the brick. Or maybe you see cracked mortar joints or even moss growing on the chimney. You might even notice a musty smell from the fireplace. These are all alarm bells, screaming that the window for a simple preventative fix is closing, fast. Okay, so you see a problem. Your first instinct is probably to run down to the hardware store and grab a can of waterproofer. But this right here, this is where really good intentions can lead to an absolute catastrophe. This quote really says it all. Most of the stuff you'll find on the shelf are just sealers. They basically create a film over the surface, like a layer of plastic. The problem is, moisture doesn't just come from rain outside, it also comes from inside your house. And with a sealer on there, it has absolutely no way to escape. And this difference is everything. A standard sealer just forms a film, trapping moisture inside that then freezes and literally blows the face of the brick off from the inside out. A professional-grade repellent is completely different. It doesn't seal the surface. It actually penetrates into the brick, protecting it while still letting the whole thing breathe. You heard me right. A healthy chimney absolutely needs to be able to breathe. So let's take a quick look at the science behind the correct way to do this. Real waterproofing uses something called a vapor-permeable membrane. Now, these are not paints or thick coatings. They're actually sophisticated compounds that soak into the brick and line the inside of every single pore. Think of it like a one-way street. Liquid water from rain can't get in, but water vapor from inside your house can easily get out. And this isn't just a quick spray-on job. It's a really precise multi-step process. First, the chimney has to be completely cleaned, and any bad mortar joints have to be repaired. Then you have to wait for it to be totally dry so the product can soak in as deep as possible. Finally, the repellent is applied until the brick is fully saturated, so it just can't absorb another drop. That's how you know it's protected from the inside out. All right, let's talk about the bottom line. Why does all this science matter? Well, because ignoring it is going to hit your wallet, and trust me, it's going to hit it hard. If the damage goes too far, if that spalling destroys the chimney structure, you're not looking at a repair anymore. You're looking at a complete top-to-bottom rebuild. And that can easily cost you anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. I mean, the math here is pretty simple, right? A professional waterproofing treatment, the thing that prevents all this from happening, costs just a tiny fraction of a full rebuild. It's the difference between simple maintenance and a potential financial nightmare. Just remember this, by the time you actually see flakes of brick on your roof or on the ground, the internal damage has been going on for years. Waiting for those visible signs to pop up is, without a doubt, the most expensive way you could possibly maintain your home. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. A chimney that looks perfectly fine on the outside can be a hollow shell on the inside, its mortar core literally washed away by water. It's an incredibly heavy structure sitting on top of your house. So the question is, if its core is dissolving, is your home truly safe?